Disclaimer. Please check your state, your territory, your province, and your location about what you are able to do with dysphagia. Disclaimer said. Hello everyone, I am Janelle in SLP Peep, and this is the SLP channel. This month we're talking more in terms of the medical side of things for speech-language pathologists. And I guess I could say disclaimer number 2, I work at a pediatric outpatient clinic. I don't really work with medical things very much or very often. I mainly read about them in reports. If you have further questions and you have access to SLPs or other people that work in medical settings, please check with them, as they are more likely to be familiar with your local guidelines as well. Some of this information will vary depending on where you live and where you work. Now, I've talked about dysphagia or swallowing disorders before. A lot of this information will be considered repeats. There are 2 different types of dysphasias that I want to bring up. The first part is sensory, the other one is physical. What do I mean by that? Dysphagia, swallowing disorders that are sensory based, is a bit more than just being picky eaters. The texture feels wrong, their gag reflex kicks in, there's just something not right with whatever is entering in their mouth. It's sensory, feeling, tactile based. Now, what do I mean about the physical aspect of dysphagia? Sensory may be okay, it may feel good, it may feel great, but the mechanics of working, starting from the lips all the way down to the gut, and I just realized you guys can't see, but there's something wrong in the mechanic system of swallowing from the lips to the gut. That something's just not working out. Now, there are screeners and assessments for dysphagia. For the purpose of this video, I'm mainly going to talk about the physical parts of dysphagia. So I love you, sensory dysphagia, but this is not your video. Now, screeners versus assessments. There are so many different types of screeners for dysphagia. I'm not going to get into. Please check the video about screeners up here. This will explain so much about them. Now, the assessments. There are 2 main assessments that can be done to diagnose dysphagia. One of them is called MBS. The other one is called FEES. If anyone says that a bedside swallow can be used as a formal assessment, please ask for FEES or an MBS. We cannot assess what we cannot see. That and a bedside swallow is technically a screener, so can't diagnose with a screener. Now, FEES and an MBS, they're very different, and they could tell 2 very different things as well. Gross part, getting out of the way. FEES has a little camera on something that looks like a noodle. The person sticks it up your nose and it hangs in the back of your throat, and you can see your vocal folds, and it's actually really cool. MBS, they just take lots of x-rays really quickly, and they watch you drink and eat food, which is really cool. Both assessments tell so much and very different things. For example, when somebody has a FEES done, we technically cannot see the swallow as it happens. We can see the before and the after, but not during. And we get to see the soft tissue. We get to see if it looks agitated. Is it red? Is it puffy? What does it look like? For an MBS, we get to actually see the swallow as it happens in real time. We can see how much of it is going down to the lungs, how much is actually going where it should be. Technically, you could still see pooling with the FEES, but you get to see the movement from the time food enters your lips, if the camera is placed correctly, to when it goes down to your gut or your lungs. But we don't want the lungs, we want it to go down to your gut. There's also cons. As I mentioned with the FEES, you don't actually get to see the whole swallow. The actual swallow portion is actually whited out, because pretty much everything gets scrunched and moved, and all of a sudden you see really bright light right when it swallows. You also don't get to really see the food in the person's mouth. So are they chewing correctly? Correctly meaning well. Are they pocketing food? How are their lips? Are they actually making a seal to move the food back? You don't get to see that. You also don't get to see how the food travels down to the gut. But you do get to see where exactly the food lands if it has premature spillage. That sounds awkward, but it's hilarious saying that out loud. And as mentioned before, you get to see if there's irritation on the soft tissue. You don't get to see that with the MBS. Downsides of the MBS is sometimes people medically cannot do it because of like other medical concerns. I knew somebody like that, and really cool experience she just could not participate with the MBS. Now, what's really interesting about FEES versus MBS, FEES is kind of done on a mobile cart as long as it has wheels and you have your equipment and the cleaning equipment close by. MBS, not so much. MBS is a very stationary thing as it involves an X-ray projection system because you need to view what's going on. You must also have a X-ray tech. You must also have a radiologist with you. Some states it may be a radiologist tech. Not 100% sure. Not my field. And an SLP. So with MBS, there are so many people that are involved with it. With FEES, you have the speech language pathologist. You might have a CNA to assist you, especially if you're doing food trials with it, but that's it. As I mentioned before, FEES can be rolled around if somebody's in their room. Generally speaking, the FEES cart can be rolled in. You can do your thing. When you're done, you take off all the tools that have bodily fluids on it. And then you could take those tools to be cleaned, and you can prep for the next person as long as you have a spare set of tools. MBS is kind of bigger. The only time I've actually heard about it being mobile was actually with a company. There are things such as mobile MBS, and what this is, it's when a radiologist, an SLP, and usually a third person, and I don't remember their title right now, maybe it was a doctor, but they come together, they drive this big old van that has all the equipment inside, and they're able to drive from nursing home, residential facility to another residential facility. Good heavens, they can even go to a home, and they can perform an MBS on anyone that needs it. Does it cost more? Oh, I believe so, yes. But is there the convenience factor? Yes. And some days, that convenience factor is really what's needed. So that was like a really quick rundown about dysphagia, the diagnosis of them, and where to find them. Dysphagia is actually really interesting and fun, and one day maybe I'll just have a dysphagia month, but I don't know. Which leads me to, for the question of the day, what would you like to know about dysphagia? About the swallowing disorders part of life? Let me know down below. Maybe one day I'll have the rumors of dysphagia and what the actual truth is. I hope you have a terrific day. If you're interested in this sort of content, please remember to hit that like and subscribe button, and until next time, bye bye.